Hello, Dina here from thelittlewiddow.com, The Little Widow at Twitter, Littlest Widow on Instagram. We have a reading tonight about someone's love life. We're looking to see if there are any good prospects coming up. I will be using the Ciccioli Tarot tonight, which you saw me use once before. I did smudge it off camera, so you didn't have to watch that, but I will, I haven't shuffled yet. We'll get a good shuffle on it so that, you know, if Shuffle Fetish Guy is here, he's not disappointed. So I did check her chart. Essentially the situation that we're working with is she got out of a serious long-term relationship. I think it was about 1.5 years ago at this point. And then did date someone kind of seriously after that, but it kind of petered out and just kind of been drifting since. Nothing's been really compelling or special, and she's hoping that that'll change sometime in the fairly near future. So we want to see if we see any relationships on the horizon that will be, you know, kind of compelling, or what literally what's in the cards. I did look at her chart, as you know I always do, and I didn't see anything major in there at all, one way or the other. So, you know, grain of salt with that. I mean, I feel like, you know, that there are a lot of things that I look at, and I will do a talk about what I look at when I kind of look for certain things in an astrological chart, but I didn't see, nothing jumped out at me, any of the major indicators that were like, oh, holy shit, I've just found the love of my life. You know, none of that popped up in there. That said, you know, everybody's different. And, you know, I did a reading for someone the other day who was a friend of mine, and I had looked at his chart, and he had one of those indicators a couple years ago, and nothing romantic happened at all. You know what happened? He bought a shore house. He loves his shore house. Like, he really loves it. I mean, I hope it's not the love of his life, but maybe it is. So again, you know, Venus and seventh house cusps and all of those things that I look at, they all play out differently for different people. I mean, my Venus is conjunct my midheaven, for example. So when I have a transit or a progression to it, I always think it's going to be awesome, you know, and usually sometimes it's just a really pleasant period where I make more money than normal, you know. It doesn't always tend to be romantic for me. So she has no major indicators coming up of anything. There was something mildly pleasant that's kind of active right now, and is sort of on its way out. So it could have been finding a new hobby or starting a new side hustle or something, though, too. That would be appropriate for what that was. So one thing I will say about not having any astrological indicators that look major, either by transit or progression, is, to me, that's a completely level playing field. There's no energies pulling you one way or the other. That means, to me, that you can kind of make things what you want a little bit more than normal. Nothing's gonna fall into your lap. Nothing's gonna hit you over the head, you know, but at the same time, nothing's stopping you either. So I think that can be a cool thing too. There are very few times in our lives where we don't have something happening, either good or bad, you know, where it is just kind of like a neutral period. Neutral periods are where we can kind of exercise our own will a little bit more. You know what I mean? If that makes any sense. So just because I didn't see anything in the chart doesn't mean that nothing can come of it or can happen. So the cards, however, are going to show us what we can expect, and I'm going to say in the fairly near future. I mean, I'm gonna assume that we're thinking within the next couple months at the most, you know. If we see anything on the horizon, you know, not longer than 6 months for sure, preferably sooner, you know, weeks to months would be more like a timeline that I think we want to be in. So do we see, is there anything coming up in her love life? Any changes, any tall, dark strangers? Anything we can see that's gonna change for her? Hopefully something compelling and awesome. All right. Okay. The Tower is our first card. In the environment of the Wheel of Fortune. I love this version of the Wheel of Fortune. I think that's such a cute card. I love this deck, but okay. Crossing card is the Six of Wands. It's a good card. The Foundation, Nine of Swords. We talked about this card a bit lately. Behind us is the Seven of Cups. Oh, this is the Four of Wands. That's a nice card. Page of Swords, Ten of Cups, Six of Cups, Knight of Pentacles, and our outcome card is, it's the Lovers. It's the Lovers is our outcome card. My word, couldn't ask for a better outcome card, really. Maybe the Two of Cups, but pish posh. Well, that's stinking fantastic. All right, so I know I've kind of probably touched on this before. A lot of the times we say that the Lovers means choice, right? It gets equated back with Gemini when we do the astrological kind of symbolisms of the cards. Sometimes, yes, I absolutely see that, especially when it's not in a reading about love. However, I'm not going to be one of those people who does a reading specifically asking about love prospects and ends up with the Lovers and is like, nope, doesn't mean love. As far as I'm concerned, in this reading, this means love. So I feel very good about this. And the card representing her as well, for like where we go once we get out of the immediate future, is the Ten of Cups, which is a card of really like kind of it's a girl riding a little tiny elephant in this deck, because you know this is a weird deck, but it's a card of emotional fulfillment. So I feel really good about this reading. Yay! Happy readings for a change. All right, so we'll go through the whole thing and we'll talk it out, but this is a good one. So basically the situation we're working in is kind of that there was an upheaval, you know, there was change, there was, you know, and that would be represented by the Tower, right? The Tower is something kind of, you know, something gets knocked down basically, right? That's what's happening in the Tower. It's not always a bad thing, it's just disruptive. So that's the circumstance that we're in. You know, she had this solid relationship that she was in for a long time, and it you know, it got knocked down. That's over. You know, all the environment that she's in and what she's working in is actually really positive. The foundation of the matter that we're kind of working off of too is on the Nine of Swords. That's a card that I get a lot. That's an anxiety card. It is a card that indicates depression and sometimes like a hopelessness about the situation. So this is depicting her current situation. There's probably a lot of anxiety, more than I would have thought possibly, about the love scenario. Behind her is the Seven of Cups, which is a card that we've drawn a lot lately in readings across multiple decks. She's moving away from that. That's the card of confusion, of not knowing what I want. In this deck, it's a girl and all these little bunnies are popping out of the different holes. We actually got this in a reading the other night. We did for that guy who, you know, is like torn between two women. She doesn't know which bunny to choose. There's all these different bunnies to play with. Which one do I want? It can be a lot of different things. It can kind of be fantasy. It can kind of be illusion sometimes. Sometimes it could really be that I don't know what I want. We're moving away from that. We're moving away from the confusion, and we're moving away from this kind of like confused mental state possibly even, and we're moving towards the Page of Swords. So pages represent young people sometimes. They can represent children. They can certainly represent a guy that's younger than us, but I don't think that's what that is in this case. the energy of a page is a lot similar to the energy of an ace sometimes. So to me, based on this kind of confusion and anxiety we're seeing in the present situation, I think the fact that we're moving towards this page means that what we're moving towards is a clarity of thought more than anything else. I could be incorrect. It could be that it's a younger dude who is an air sign or who has like verbal diarrhea, but I don't really see that for her. I'm inclined to say that what this is we're moving, you know, there could be a lot of communication too. Pages are communication and swords are communication. So put them both together and you have a lot of talking. It could be a relationship that starts over text message or social media, or that is heavily not face-to-face. That could be saying that that's how this starts too. So I would go with one of those two things. Either that we're getting a new clarity in terms of what we want, and we're gonna cut through some of that anxiety, or this guy is coming sooner than we even think, and that the conversation is gonna start off just really being primarily, you know, via a phone or computer versus face-to-face. So that's what I'm getting there. But then when we get out of this immediate environment that we're in, you see her being kind of coming from a place of emotional fulfillment. She's kind of done via the Ten of Cups with her old emotional situation, you know, whatever baggage, all of that stuff, she's kind of over it. The Six of Cups is in the Six of Cups as a card that I love. However, it can represent a nostalgia for an old love sometimes. It can represent that we're hanging on to some damage from a past relationship. And that is kind of here as an outside factor. So just something to keep in mind and consider. Look at that. I don't know if you're totally over your ex, but that might be a factor here for some reason, because it is coming up in something that's an outside, that's an influence on the final outcome. But basically, what we end up with is the Lovers card. I mean, unless there's two dudes you have to make a choice between, I'm not gonna say it's outside of the realm of possibility, but when I ask a fairly straightforward question like this, or what I feel to be a straightforward question, where there is no one on the horizon right now, and I get the Lover as the outcome, to me, that means that you're gonna find somebody awesome, and that you're gonna be your prospects are really good, and that in that time frame that we asked about, you definitely will find somebody that you're going to be in some kind of relationship with. I'm not saying that it's going to be forever, but this is a really positive card. And one thing that we do talk about a lot on here is, I always say, like, you know, there's Major Arcana, which is a card like this. It's not one of the suits. And then there's the Minor Arcana, like, you know, the 10s and the 9s and things like that, things that are numbered. Major Arcana cards are less subject to the influence of the cards around them. They're less likely to change. They're less dependent on the other stuff that's going on. A Major Arcana card as the outcome is less malleable, and it makes its presence known a little bit more. So I feel really good about this. And this particular card, it is a woman alone. I mean, unless you count her serpent. And that's kind of the thing. One of the associations with the Lover's card, it goes back to the Garden of Eden, where, you know, with the kind of like the serpent can be knowledge, or it can be the forbidden fruit, and there's fruit all around her, where we kind of fall from grace. But it does represent human love. I mean, were it not for that forbidden fruit or for that knowledge, I mean, we wouldn't have that, you know? So I think it's a really positive card, and I feel really good about it. So I think within the next couple months, I would expect some clarity on what you want. I would expect some communication to start, and I would expect you to find somebody awesome. Or at least somebody that you're nuts about and get into a relationship with. I mean, whether he's awesome or not, the cards didn't tell us that. We can ask again when he shows up. But I'm optimistic about it. So, all right, that was a good one tonight. Yay. All right, if you have a question for me, you can email me at littlewidow@icloud.com, or you can hit me up via Twitter or Instagram. Thank you. Good night.